My sister's voice cut through the elegant ballroom like a knife through silk. She's not self-made. She's not even close. I froze in the marble-floored entryway, my hand still on the door handle, heart suddenly pounding against my ribs. The venue was packed with industry leaders, investors, colleagues I'd worked with for years. And there stood Vivian, my older sister, surrounded by a small group of guests, her voice dripping with practiced disdain. Trust me, I know her better than anyone. It's all smoke and mirrors. The words hit me like physical blows. I'd walked in expecting celebration, expecting recognition. Instead, I was hearing my own sister systematically dismantling my reputation to a captive audience. Nobody was defending me. They just stood there, wine glasses paused halfway to lips, expressions uncertain. Outside, through the massive glass windows, I could see the billboard that had prompted tonight's event. My name blazed across it in golden letters against the city skyline. But standing here, listening to Vivian poison the room against me, that billboard felt less like a triumph and more like a target painted on my back. My throat tightened. My face flushed hot. But I didn't let it show. Not yet. I took a deep breath and forced myself to step fully into the room. The weight of Vivian's words pressed down on me like I was drowning. More guests were turning now, noticing the tension, sensing drama. Some looked curious. Others looked uncomfortable. But none of them looked like they were about to rush to my defense. I was on my own, standing in the doorway of what should have been my moment, watching my sister destroy everything I'd built with carefully chosen words and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The sting of betrayal was worse than any business setback I'd ever faced. This wasn't a competitor trying to undermine me. This wasn't a deal gone wrong or a client lost. This was family. This was the person who'd known me since birth, who'd watched me struggle and fight and claw my way up from nothing. And she was using that knowledge as ammunition. I swallowed hard, pushing down the surge of emotions threatening to break through. I couldn't afford to cry. Couldn't afford to show weakness. Not here, not now. Not in front of these people who were already questioning my legitimacy thanks to Vivian's poisonous words. So I did what I'd always done. I forced a smile, lifted my chin, and walked deeper into the room. The conversation around Vivian stuttered to a halt as people noticed me approaching. But the damage was already done. I could see it in their eyes. The event was supposed to be my coronation. 3 months ago, I'd been featured as one of the city's 30 under 30 entrepreneurs to watch. My marketing consultancy had landed its biggest client yet, a Fortune 500 company that paid more in one contract than I used to make in a year. The billboard outside was part of the campaign, my face and name promoting the industry conference I'd been invited to keynote tomorrow. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd sacrificed, was finally paying off. And Vivian was here to tear it all down. As I moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations that now felt hollow, her words echoed in my head. Not self-made. Smoke and mirrors. Each phrase was a calculated missile aimed at the foundation of my reputation. Because in this industry, perception was everything. If people thought my success was fake, if they believed I hadn't earned my place, it wouldn't matter what I'd actually accomplished. The doubt alone could destroy me. I grabbed a champagne flute from a passing waiter, more for something to do with my hands than because I wanted to drink. My name was blazing on that billboard outside, visible through every window in this venue. But standing here, feeling the weight of suspicious glances, it didn't feel like victory. Felt like a setup. And I needed to figure out how to fight back before Vivian's lies became accepted truth. My name is Alexis Monroe. And I've been fighting for everything I have since I was old enough to understand that nothing would ever be handed to me. Unlike Vivian, who seemed to float through life on charm and connections, I'd had to work for every opportunity, every client, every moment of recognition. We'd grown up in the same house with the same parents, but our experiences couldn't have been more different. Vivian was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Beautiful, charismatic, naturally gifted at making people love her. I was the younger sister who tried too hard, who was always just a little too intense, a little too ambitious, a little too much. While Vivian breezed through college on her personality alone, I'd worked 3 jobs to pay for business school. While she networked at cocktail parties, I was in my tiny apartment at 3 a.m. perfecting client presentations. While she dated men who could open doors for her, I was cold calling potential clients and getting hung up on 90% of the time. But I'd made it. Against all odds, despite having none of the natural advantages Vivian possessed, I'd built something real. My consultancy was thriving. My reputation was solid. My client list was impressive. Or at least it had been, until Vivian decided to destroy it with a few well-placed words at the exact moment when I should have been celebrating. I'd always known she was competitive. I just hadn't realized how ruthless she could be. Growing up in Vivian's shadow had taught me resilience, even if it hadn't taught me much else. She was 3 years older, which meant she'd always been first. First to start school, first to date, first to graduate, first to land a prestigious job. I was always trailing behind, always being compared, always found wanting. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" became the soundtrack of my childhood. At dinner parties, relatives would gush over Vivian's accomplishments while barely acknowledging mine. At family gatherings, she held court while I faded into the background. Even our parents, who I knew loved us both, couldn't hide their preference. Vivian was effortless. It was an effort. She succeeded because she was naturally gifted. I succeeded because I worked myself to exhaustion. And somehow, in everyone's eyes, her achievements counted more. I remember being 14, staying up until midnight to finish a school project while Vivian partied with friends. The next day, she'd thrown together something in 20 minutes and gotten the same grade. "Natural talent," the teacher had said admiringly. Nobody mentioned the hours I'd poured in. That became the pattern. Vivian skating by on charm while I ground myself down with hard work. And no matter how much I achieved, it was never quite as impressive as what came easily to her. So I'd learned to stop expecting recognition. I'd learned to find satisfaction in the work itself, in knowing I'd earned everything through pure effort. Until tonight, when her words reminded me that she'd never actually seen me as a threat. Till now. I'd barely made it 10 feet into the room when Vivian appeared at my side. Her smile bright and false as costume jewelry. "Alexis, there you are. I was just telling everyone about your big billboard." Her voice carried, ensuring nearby guests could hear. "I didn't expect you to pull this off. I guess I underestimated you." The words were technically complimentary, but her tone made them feel like an insult. Like she was surprised I'd managed something so basic. Like my success was an anomaly that still confused her. I forced myself to smile back, aware of the eyes watching our interaction. "Thanks, Vivian. It means a lot that you came." That was a lie. I hadn't invited her. She'd somehow gotten herself added to the guest list, probably through one of her endless connections. Her presence here wasn't supported. It was sabotage. "Of course I came," she said, touching my arm with false affection. "Family supports family, right? Even when one of us is." Surprising everyone. There it was again. That subtle undermining, dressed up as sisterly pride. She was performing for the crowd, establishing herself as the magnanimous older sister supporting her surprisingly successful younger sibling. Meanwhile, she was planting seeds of doubt with every carefully chosen word. I pulled away gently, still smiling. I should mingle. Lots of people to thank. "Oh, I've been doing some of that for you," Vivian said brightly. "Just making sure everyone knows the real story." My blood ran cold. What did that mean? The next hour was torture. I moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations that felt increasingly hollow, watching Vivian work the room like she owned it. She had that gift, that ability to make everyone feel like they were the most important person in the conversation. She'd laugh at someone's joke, touch their arm, lean in conspiratorially. And then she'd say something subtle, something that planted doubt. I caught fragments as I passed different groups. Of course, she's had a lot of help. Family connections really open doors. Not sure how sustainable it is. Each comment was designed to erode my credibility without being overtly malicious. If I confronted her, I'd look paranoid. If I stayed silent, her narrative would spread unchallenged. Behind my professional smile, I was screaming. Nobody knew the real story of how I'd built my business. They didn't know about the 18-hour days, the rejected pitches, the countless failures before the successes. They didn't know about maxing out credit cards to keep the business afloat, about eating ramen for weeks to afford client meetings at expensive restaurants. They didn't know about the mentor who'd finally believed in me after 100 others had turned me away. My success wasn't handed to me. It wasn't fake. It was earned through blood, sweat, and more tears than I'd ever admit publicly. But Vivian's version was simpler, catchier. The younger sister rode coattails, faking her way to the top. And in this industry, the story that spread fastest wasn't always the true one. My phone buzzed in my clutch as I escaped to the bathroom for a moment of peace. A text from Marcus Chen, my mentor and the one person who'd taken a chance on me when nobody else would. Saw the billboard. Proud of you. You've earned this. I stared at those words, feeling something crack inside my chest. Someone believed in me. Someone knew the truth. Marcus had been the industry veteran who'd agreed to coffee 3 years ago when I was nobody. He'd listened to my pitch for the consultancy, seen something in my desperation and determination, and offered guidance that had been invaluable. He'd never asked for anything in return, never expected credit. I just believed that hard work deserved support. Type back quickly. Thank you. Tonight's rough, but I'm pushing through. His response came immediately. Don't let anyone dim your light. You've got something special. Keep showing them what you're made of. My throat tightened with emotion I couldn't afford to show. Not here. Not surrounded by people who were already questioning my legitimacy. I splashed cold water on my face, careful not to smudge my makeup, and studied my reflection. The woman staring back looked polished, successful, confident. Nobody could see the fear underneath. Nobody could see the doubt Vivian had planted. But keep it that way. I straightened my shoulders, lifted my chin, and walked back into the ballroom. This was my moment, my achievement, and I wasn't going to let Vivian steal it. As the evening progressed, I started noticing the pattern more clearly. Vivian wasn't just randomly undermining me. She was targeting specific people. The venture capitalist who'd expressed interest in my next expansion. The industry journalist who'd interviewed me last month. The potential client who could triple my revenue. Each conversation she had with them left them looking thoughtful, uncertain. I watched from across the room as she spoke to Thomas Bradford, a VC who'd scheduled a meeting with me for next week. She leaned in, her expression sympathetic and confidential. Whatever she was saying made his eyebrows raise. When he glanced in my direction, his expression had shifted from interested to skeptical. My stomach twisted. That meeting represented months of relationship building, countless emails, and careful positioning. If Vivian destroyed it with a few whispered words, I might never get another chance. The underlying jealousy had always been there, I realized. I'd just been too busy surviving to notice it. When we were kids, she'd had everything, so there was nothing to be jealous about. But now, for the first time in our lives, I had something she didn't. Recognition. Success that was mine alone, not shared or inherited or borrowed. And she couldn't stand it. The golden child wasn't supposed to be outshone by the disappointing younger sister. I was disrupting the natural order, threatening her position as the family success story. So she was doing what she did best, using her charm and connections to put me back in my place. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. I was standing near the windows, looking out at my billboard and trying to steady my breathing, when someone touched my shoulder. Alexis Monroe. I turned to find Helena Reeves, the CEO of Stellar Innovations, one of the largest marketing firms in the city. My heart jumped. I'd been trying to get a meeting with her for 6 months. Ms. Reeves, I'm honored you're here. She smiled, and it was genuine. I've been watching your work. That campaign you did for Northstar Tech. Brilliant. The metrics were exceptional. Thank you, I managed, trying not to sound as shocked as I felt. I actually wanted to talk to you about a potential collaboration, Helena continued. We're expanding our boutique services division, and your approach to data-driven storytelling is exactly what we need. Would you be interested in discussing a partnership? Partnership with Stellar Innovations would change everything. It would validate my business, open doors I couldn't even imagine, cement my reputation as a serious player. Absolutely, I said, probably too quickly. I'd love to explore that. Helena handed me her card. Call my assistant. Let's set something up for next week. She paused, glancing across the room to where Vivian was holding court. Fair warning. Your sister approached me earlier with some concerns about your business practices. I did my homework afterward. Everything checked out perfectly. Just thought you should know someone's trying to undermine you. My face flushed hot. I appreciate you telling me. Professional jealousy is ugly, Helena said simply. But the work speaks for itself. Don't let it shake you. She walked away, leaving me standing there with her card clutched in my hand, feeling like I could finally breathe again. I watched Vivian work the room with new eyes now. She wasn't just making casual conversation. She was executing a strategy. Every person she spoke to was someone connected to my success or future opportunities. She was trying to poison every professional relationship I had, methodically cutting off my support systems. The rage that built inside me was cold and focused. This wasn't sibling rivalry anymore. This was sabotage. But I couldn't confront her here, not in front of everyone. That would make me look unstable, emotional, unprofessional. Everything she was already implying about me. So I did what I did best. Work. I moved through the room making genuine connections, having real conversations about business and strategy and results. I let my knowledge speak for itself. When someone asked about the North Star campaign Helena had mentioned, I explained the process, the challenges, the innovative solutions we developed. When someone questioned my rapid growth, I walked them through the client acquisition strategy, the retention rates, and the measurable results. Data. Proof. Everything Vivian's whispered insinuations weren't. I could see some people's expressions shift as we talked, doubt being replaced by respect. They'd heard Vivian's version, but now they were hearing mine. And mine had substance behind it. By the time I took the small stage for my brief remarks, the energy in the room had shifted. Not completely, but enough. People were listening, watching, judging for themselves rather than accepting Vivian's narrative. My speech was short, professional, focused on gratitude and future vision. But as I looked out at the crowd, I made sure to mention the journey. The failures before the successes. The rejection letters. The clients who'd said no before the ones who said yes. The late nights and early mornings and moments of doubt. I didn't mention Vivian. Didn't acknowledge the elephant in the room. But I made sure everyone understood that nothing I'd achieved had been easy, handed to me, or fake. When I finished, the applause was genuine and loud. I stepped down from the stage to find several people waiting to talk to me, including two I'd seen speaking with Vivian earlier. They wanted to discuss potential collaborations, wanted to know more about my approach, and wanted to schedule follow-up meetings. Vivian stood in the corner, her smile fixed, watching her narrative crumble. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Because that evening as I was leaving, I overheard something that changed everything. Two of Vivian's colleagues from her finance firm, standing by the coat check, voices low. Did you hear about the Waverly account? The one she lost. Yeah, brutal. I heard it was because of fabricated numbers. They're still deciding whether to report it or just cut ties. My heart stopped. Fabricated numbers. Vivian. I stepped closer, pretending to search for my coat, ears straining. She's been getting sloppy. Too confident. This isn't the first time she's cut corners, just the first time she's been caught. They moved away before I could hear more, but it was enough. My perfect sister, the golden child, had made a mistake. Big one. And nobody knew about it yet. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my apartment, laptop open, researching everything I could find about Vivian's firm and the Waverly account. It took hours of digging through public records, industry news, and professional networks, but slowly the picture emerged. 3 months ago, Vivian's firm had won a major account with Waverly Industries, a mid-sized manufacturing company looking to restructure their finances. Vivian had been the lead on the account, promising aggressive growth projections that had won them the contract. But those projections had been based on inflated market data and optimistic assumptions that hadn't panned out. When Waverly discovered the discrepancies, they'd quietly ended the relationship. Vivian's firm had managed to keep it quiet, probably to avoid a public scandal. But the damage was done. Vivian was skating on thin ice professionally. I stared at the information on my screen, feeling something cold settle in my stomach. This was it. This was the leverage I needed. If I wanted to, I could expose her mistakes, and show everyone that the golden child wasn't so perfect after all. I could destroy her reputation the way she'd tried to destroy mine. My finger hovered over the keyboard. But I didn't act. Not yet. Because going public immediately would look like petty revenge. Like I was lashing out because she'd embarrassed me. No, I needed to be smarter than that. More strategic. I needed to wait for the right moment, the right opportunity. I needed to let Vivian think she'd won. The next family gathering happened 2 weeks later. A Sunday brunch at our parents' house. I thought about skipping it, but that would look like weakness. Like I was avoiding Vivian because she'd gotten to me. So I went, armed with knowledge and a plan. Vivian was already there when I arrived, holding court in the living room as usual. She greeted me with a hug that felt like a performance for our parents' benefit. "There's the Billboard star," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "How's business going?" Still riding that wave. The subtle dig wasn't lost on me. Still riding that wave implied my success was temporary, not earned. I smiled sweetly. "Business is great, actually. We just signed 2 new major clients. How about you? How's work at the firm?" I watched her face carefully. There was a flicker, just a moment, where her smile tightened. "Busy as always. You know how it is." "I do," I said. Though I heard the Waverly account ended. That must have been disappointing. Her eyes sharpened. "Where did you hear about that?" "Industry gossip," I said casually. "You know how people talk. I'm sure it wasn't your fault." The room had gone quiet. Our parents were watching, confused by the tension. Vivian's smile was strained now. It was a mutual decision. Not every client relationship works out. "Of course," I agreed. Though I heard there were some concerns about the initial projections. "Must be hard when clients question your credibility." The words hung in the air. Vivian's face went pale, then flushed. "I don't know what you think you heard, but—" "I'm not saying anything," I interrupted gently. "Just that I understand how one mistake can make people question everything. That's been my experience lately." The room went silent. After brunch, as I was leaving, someone stopped me in the driveway. Marcus Brennan, one of Vivian's former colleagues from her first firm. Someone I'd met at a few family events over the years. "Alexis," he said quietly. "Can we talk?" We moved away from the house toward the street. Marcus looked uncomfortable, like he was wrestling with something. "I heard what happened at your event. With Vivian. News travels fast," I said neutrally. "She's my sister. She's allowed to have opinions." "She's allowed to have opinions," Marcus agreed. "She's not allowed to spread lies about your business practices to damage your reputation." Which is what she did. I stayed silent, letting him continue. "I left her firm 6 months ago," he said. "Because I couldn't stomach the way they did business anymore. Vivian specifically. She's brilliant at winning clients, but she overpromises and underdelivers. And when things go wrong, she blames everyone but herself." "Why are you telling me this?" Marcus met my eyes. "Because what she tried to do to you at that event. That's who she is. She sees you as competition now, and she's trying to eliminate the threat. But you should know there are people who see through it. Who knows the truth about both of you." He handed me a folder. "This is everything I have on the Waverly situation. And a few other accounts where similar things happened. If you need it, it's yours. I stared at the folder, feeling the weight of it. This could destroy her career. Only if she keeps trying to destroy yours, Marcus said simply. Consider it insurance. He walked away, leaving me standing there with documented proof of Vivian's professional misconduct. The pieces were finally falling into place. The shift started subtly at first. At the next industry mixer, I noticed people gravitating toward me instead of Vivian. She'd show up, all charm and charisma, and people would be polite. But then they'd drift over to me to have substantive conversations about actual work. Helena Reeves made a point of introducing me to several major players in the industry, effectively endorsing my credibility. Thomas Bradford, the VC Vivian had tried to poison me, scheduled our meeting after all. I did my due diligence, he said over coffee. Your sister had some concerns, but the numbers don't lie. Your growth is real, your client retention is exceptional, and your reputation among actual clients is spotless. The partnership with Stellar Innovations moved forward. Within a month, we'd signed a deal that would expand my boutique consultancy into a full-service agency. My team grew from 5 people to 15. My revenue tripled. And through it all, I watched Vivian lose ground. Not because I was actively destroying her, but because the truth was coming out on its own. Clients talk. Colleagues talk. Word spreads when someone overpromises and underdelivers. When someone takes credit for others' work. When someone values image over substance. Vivian had built her success on charm and connections, and those were powerful tools. But they weren't enough when the actual work didn't back up the performance. Meanwhile, I kept my head down and delivered results. I let my work speak louder than any words could. The pressure on Vivian mounted steadily over the next few months. Her firm quietly moved her off several high-profile accounts. A promotion she'd been promised went to someone else. Colleagues who'd once sought her advice started avoiding her. I heard about it through the industry grapevine, through mutual connections, through the same networks she tried to use against me. Part of me felt satisfaction. The golden child was finally facing consequences. But another part, a part one didn't like to acknowledge, felt something closer to pity. Because I knew what it felt like to have your reputation questioned, to feel your achievements slipping away, to wonder if you'd ever recover. But I didn't reach out. Didn't offer help or sympathy. Because Vivian had shown me who she really was at that event. She hadn't undermined me out of concern or tough love. She'd done it out of jealousy and spite. And I wasn't going to forget that. At a charity gala 6 months after the Billboard event, we ended up seated at the same table. The tension was palpable. Vivian barely acknowledged me, her smile brittle, her usual confidence notably absent. Halfway through dinner, she excused herself. I found her in the bathroom afterward, reapplying lipstick with shaking hands. Long night? I asked, my tone neutral. She met my eyes in the mirror. What do you want, Alexis? To gloat? No, I said honestly. I want to understand why you tried to destroy me. What did I ever do to you besides exist? Her hands stilled. For a moment I thought she might actually answer honestly. The moment I'd been waiting for came at the annual Industry Awards ceremony. I'd been nominated for Rising Star in Marketing Innovation. I hadn't expected to win. There were several strong candidates. But when they announced my name, the applause was deafening. I walked to the stage in a daze, accepted the crystal trophy, and looked out at the crowd. The billboard from that night 6 months ago had been the beginning. This was the continuation. Proof that I belonged here, that I'd earned my place, that everything I'd built was real. In my acceptance speech, I didn't mention Vivian. Didn't acknowledge the obstacles or the people who'd doubted me. Instead, I talked about the importance of substance over image, of building foundations that could withstand scrutiny, of letting work speak louder than words. Success isn't about looking successful, I said. It's about delivering results, maintaining integrity, and earning trust one relationship at a time. The recognition is wonderful, but the real reward is knowing that what I've built is real and lasting. As I stepped off the stage, I caught sight of Vivian in the back of the room. She'd stayed, despite everything she'd come to watch. And for just a moment, I saw something in her expression that looked like genuine regret. But the moment passed, and she was gone before I could process it. The rest of the night was a blur of congratulations, business cards, opportunities. People who'd questioned me 6 months ago now wanted to partner with me, wanted my advice, wanted to be associated with my success. The vindication was sweet, but it was also bittersweet. Because I'd proven myself, but at the cost of any real relationship with my sister. Vivian's fall accelerated after the awards ceremony. Within weeks, she'd been quietly let go from her firm. The official story was pursuing new opportunities, but everyone in the industry knew what that meant. Her reputation was damaged beyond repair. The golden child had tarnished. I learned about it through Marcus, who called to give me the news. "I thought you should know," he said. "Some people are saying you orchestrated it. That you deliberately destroyed her career." "I didn't," I said honestly. "I never used the information you gave me. Never exposed the Waverly situation publicly. I just focused on my own work." "I know," Marcus said. "But you should be aware of the narrative that's forming. The vengeful younger sister who took down the golden child." The irony wasn't lost on me. 6 months ago, Vivian had tried to paint me as a fake. Now people were painting me as a destroyer. You couldn't win. I thought about reaching out to Vivian about trying to mend bridges. But every time I picked up the phone, I remembered her voice at that event. She's not self-made. She's not even close. She hadn't cared about destroying me. Why should I care about her consequences now? So I didn't call. Didn't reach out. I focused on my business, my clients, my team. I let Vivian deal with her own mess the way I'd dealt with mine. Alone, with hard work and determination. The consequences were swift. She lost her apartment, and had to move back in with our parents temporarily. Her social circle disappeared. The life she'd built on charm and connections crumbled when those weren't enough anymore. The final confrontation came at a family dinner 3 months later. I'd been avoiding them, making excuses, but eventually my mother guilted me into showing up. Vivian was there, looking diminished. She'd lost weight, looked tired, her usual polish notably absent. Dinner was awkward, filled with strained conversation and topics everyone carefully avoided. Finally, as dessert was being cleared, Vivian spoke. "I owe you an apology," she said, looking directly at me. The table went silent. "What I did at your event was unforgivable. I was jealous and petty, and I tried to destroy something you'd built through hard work. You didn't deserve that." I stared at her, trying to read whether this was genuine or another performance. "Why?" I asked. "Why did you do it?" Vivian looked down at her hands. "Because for the first time in our lives, you had something I didn't. Real success earned through your own effort. And I couldn't stand it. I'd built everything on being the golden child, the one everyone admired. When you started succeeding on your own terms, it threatened my identity. So you tried to tear me down." "Yes," she said simply. "And I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know you probably hate me. But I needed to say it." I sat with that for a moment. Part of me wanted to accept the apology, to rebuild our relationship. But another part, the part that had been humiliated in front of my peers, couldn't forget that easily. "I don't hate you," I said finally. "But I don't trust you either. And I don't know if I ever will again." Vivian nodded, tears in her eyes. "I understand." That was all either of us said. A year after the Billboard event, I stood in my new office overlooking the city. The agency had grown beyond my wildest expectations. We'd won several major awards, expanded to 2 additional cities, and I'd been featured in 3 major business publications. The success wasn't fake. It wasn't smoke and mirrors. It was real, built on hard work and substance and results. But it had come at a cost. My relationship with Vivian was essentially non-existent. We were polite at family gatherings, but the closeness we'd once had, however superficial it might have been, was gone. I didn't regret my choices. I'd fought for what I'd built, protected it, and proved myself. But I also recognized that success without relationships felt hollow. The recognition was wonderful, but it didn't fill the space where family should be. Helena stopped by my office that afternoon. We'd become genuine friends over the past year, not just professional colleagues. "You look contemplative," she observed. "Just thinking about the journey," I said. "About what it cost." Helena nodded. "Success always costs something. The question is whether you're willing to pay the price. And whether what you gain is worth what you lose." Thought about that. About the sister I'd lost but never really had. About the validation I'd gained. About the business I'd built. "I think it was worth it," I said finally. "Not perfect. Not without regrets. But it's worth it." Helena smiled. "That's all any of us can hope for." She was right. Proven myself. Earn my place. Build something real and lasting. The billboard had been the beginning, but this, the work itself, was the actual victory. I made the decision 6 months later, at another family gathering. Vivian had been rebuilding slowly, taking a job at a smaller firm, working her way back up through actual results rather than charm and connections. She'd changed, or at least appeared to. She was quieter, more humble, less performative. I watched her interact with our younger cousins, offering genuine advice about career building, talking about her mistakes and what she'd learned from them. There was no pretense there, no performance. Just someone who'd fallen hard and was trying to do better. After dinner, I approached her on the back patio. "How are you doing?" I asked. "Really?" Vivian looked surprised by the question. "Better. Slower but better. I'm actually doing the work now instead of just looking like I am." "That's good," I said and meant it. "Listen, I've been thinking. My agency is expanding again. We need someone with financial expertise to handle client accounts properly. It wouldn't be glamorous, and you'd have to prove yourself all over again. But if you're interested." Vivian stared at me. "You're offering me a job. After everything I did to you." "I'm offering you a chance," I corrected. "What you do with it is up to you. But yes, if you're willing to actually work, to let your results speak instead of your charm, there might be a place for you." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Why?" "Because holding grudges is exhausting," I said honestly. "And because everyone deserves a second chance. Even people who don't deserve it." Vivian smiled, and for the first time in years, it looked genuine. "I'd like that. Thank you." Bringing Vivian into my agency was risky, and my team was skeptical. But I laid down clear rules. She started at an entry-level position, despite her experience. She reported to someone else, not to me. And she had to prove herself through results, just like everyone else. To her credit, she didn't complain. She showed up early, stayed late, and did the work without the flash and performance she'd relied on before. Slowly, she earned the team's respect. Not because of who she was, but because of what she delivered. 3 months in, she stopped by my office. "I wanted to thank you," she said, "for giving me this chance. I know I didn't deserve it." "You're earning it now," I said. "That's what matters." We weren't close, not like sisters should be. Too much had happened, too much trust had been broken. But we were rebuilding something brick by brick. A relationship based on mutual respect rather than family obligation. At the next industry event we attended together. When someone asked about our relationship, I didn't hesitate. "She works for my agency. She's proving to be a valuable asset." Vivian didn't try to take credit or spin the narrative. She just nodded and changed the subject. It was a small moment, but it meant everything. The person who'd once tried to destroy my reputation was now supporting it through her own honest work. That was a victory I hadn't anticipated but appreciated deeply. 2 years after the Billboard incident, Vivian had worked her way up to senior account manager. She'd earned it through consistent results, strong client relationships, and a work ethic that surprised everyone, including me. At our agency's anniversary celebration, I gave a speech about growth, resilience, and second chances. I talked about building something real, about the importance of substance over image, about learning from mistakes rather than hiding them. And then I did something I'd never planned on doing. I acknowledged Vivian publicly. "My sister works here," I said, looking directly at her in the crowd. 2 years ago that would have been unthinkable. We'd hurt each other, broken trust, damaged our relationship possibly beyond repair. But she did something brave. She admitted her mistakes, asked for a chance to prove herself, and then actually did the work to earn back respect. That kind of integrity is what this agency is built on. The room erupted in applause. Vivian looked shocked, tears streaming down her face. After the speech, she found me in the hallway. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "Yes, I did," I replied. "Because it's true. You've earned your place here, Vivian. Not because you're my sister, but because you're genuinely good at what you do. When you actually focus on the work instead of the performance." She hugged me, and for the first time since we were children it felt real. "I'm proud of what you've built," she said. "And I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. You were always the stronger one, Alexis. I just couldn't admit it." "We're different kinds of strong," I said. "We always were. I just wish we'd figured that out before everything fell apart." "Better late than never," she offered. Smiled. "Yeah. Better late than never." Standing in my corner office 3 years after that fateful Billboard event, I could see the city stretched out before me in all directions. My agency occupied 2 full floors now. We had offices in 3 cities. My face had been on more than one magazine cover, always with headlines about authentic success and substance-driven growth. The journey from that humiliating moment, frozen in the doorway while my sister tried to destroy me, to here had been longer and harder than I'd ever imagined. But it has also been more rewarding. I'd proven that success built on real work, real results, and real relationships lasted longer than success built on smoke and mirrors. I'd learned that the people who try to tear you down often do so because they're afraid of their own weaknesses being exposed. I'd discovered that holding grudges was exhausting, but offering second chances could lead to unexpected redemptions. The billboard outside my current office building displayed our agency logo, my name as founder and CEO underneath. But this time there was no fear attached to that visibility. No worry that someone would question my legitimacy or doubt my achievements. Because I'd weathered the storm, proven myself 1,000 times over, and built something that could withstand scrutiny. My phone buzzed with a text from Vivian. "Landed the Carlson account. They signed this morning. Your strategy was perfect." Smiled. We were a team now, in a way we'd never been as children. Not because we were forced to be, but because we'd chosen it. Because we'd both learned the hard lessons about pride, jealousy, and what really mattered. I thought about that night 3 years ago, about hearing her voice cutting through the ballroom. "She's not self-made. She's not even close." She'd been wrong. I was self-made, built from determination and hard work and refusing to let anyone, not even family, make me feel small. But I'd also learned that being self-made didn't mean doing it alone. It meant earning the respect of people who chose to stand beside you, not because they had to, but because you'd proven yourself worthy of that trust. The billboard outside said, "Monroe Agency, building success on substance." It was more than a slogan. It was my entire philosophy, learned through betrayal and vindication and finally, redemption. I'd come so far from that insecure younger sister, always trying to prove herself, always falling short of the golden child's shadow. Now I cast my own light, bright enough that others could find their way by it. And Vivian. She'd learned to stand in her own light too, one built on actual accomplishments rather than reflected glory. That night at the event, she'd tried to convince everyone I was fake. Now years later the truth was undeniable. The work spoke for itself. The results were measurable. The success was real. And the sister who'd once been my greatest enemy had become living proof that people could change, grow, and build something authentic from the ruins of their worst mistakes. I looked at the photo on my desk, taken at last year's holiday party. Vivian and me, standing shoulder to shoulder, genuine smiles on our faces. Not performing for anyone. Just two sisters who'd found their way back to each other through the hardest possible path. The billboard might have said otherwise that night 3 years ago. But time, work, and truth had proven what I'd known all along. I was exactly who I claimed to be. And that was more than enough.